I'm going to do this little tour of Opencart. This is basically the generic install. It's here on one of my test sites. When you install it, it does install a bunch of fake products and a few little extensions that they already have. And I'm going to go up into the address bar and I'm just going to type in the domain name /admin, ADMIN, and that takes you to the administration page. And then I'm just going to auto log in here. Of course, you wouldn't be able to do that. You can see that I've made a bunch of test purchases here in this test store of mine. Basically, it's broken down as here's the dashboard. The dashboard's going to show you, some generic information, your latest orders, stuff like that. Your catalog basically focuses on the products. Also on individual pages, information pages are like the About Us, delivery information. You can also add additional pages like this one, New Test. You can even add those pages so that they appear on the bottom menu of the site, and you can basically type in, what you see is what you get. Type editor, and then you name the page. You can make links to whatever you want here, and then you'd add categories and products. First, you'd basically add categories, and then you'd go through and add each individual product, and I'll show you a little bit about how that works. So to add a product, of course, you'd just come up here and you'd hit insert. You could also copy a product by selecting one of these and then clicking copy, or you could delete a product simply by doing that as well, by clicking it and then click delete, and you can see that product is now deleted. So you do need to be a little bit careful with that. If you had hundreds of products, you could definitely search for a product, and let's just type in HP, and you can see there's only one HP product there. We'll go back in and just pull up a fresh reload of the page. Now to insert a product, you'll basically enter the product name, and the tabs are wrapping a little bit because I've shrunk my browser down so I don't have to have such a big screen for taping this. But you'll basically type in the product name, the meta tag descriptions. Those are in the header of the page, so those aren't actually seen by people. But you want to do something that's relevant to your product. You want to type in a description of your product and some additional product tags, and those are actually used inside of Opencart. The data is a very important page. Some of these other tabs you won't worry so much about, but general and data are the ones that you need to worry the most about. So in here you'll type in your model number, and this is anything that you want to type in. It can be whatever you want, and usually it's something. It will show up on an invoice, so you want to make sure it's something that maybe makes sense to you and also makes sense to the customer as to what it is. The SKU, you can have it be an actual SKU, or you can have it be your own SKU, but you can see that that's not a required field. And for some reason the price isn't a required field as well, but you should put a price in there. And you basically, depending on what you have your currency set at, it'll allow multiple digits after the decimal point. So but you can also classify it as a taxable product, and you set the tax classes here in another section, and I'll show you that. And so you can actually set up multiple tax classes. The quantity is how many you have on hand. The minimum quantity, force a minimum order amount, you basically just leave that at 1. Now, normally what I do is I put this at 99. As you can see, I've got some predefined ones, and I put that at a large amount. Now if you only had 5 of these or 10 of these or 100 of these or whatever you wanted to do, it would subtract one each time an order was placed. And so once all of them are gone, then it'll mark it as out of stock. And so here's where you would also set that to subtract yes or no. And usually I still put 999 because I have seen a few issues in the past, so I've just always marked it really high and then clicked it and then selected no. Of course, if you're not worrying about out of stock, then you can just leave that at whatever you want, or they have a few different options. It requires shipping, so if this is something that needs to be shipped, then you put that there. SEO keyword is actually a very good thing to have, because what it'll do is it'll put the product name it'll put this SEO keyword in the address of this product. So when somebody goes to look at this product from the front home page and they go there, it'll actually give it the specific product name rather than index.php/product ID blah blah blah. It'll actually say whatever your website name is / and the product name, and so that's always good for SEO purposes. You can put a main image right here. There's another tab here to add more images, but this is the main product image. It will size it, and it will change the size of the image for Opencart will do this. It'll size it and change the way it needs to look. You'll put, of course, the date available is today or whatever. For dimension, you basically want to put this in for shipping purposes, and then you can mark it for whatever type of measurement you want to do. The weight also is for shipping purposes. So once you have all that in, links is kind of another good one to have. You can put a manufacturer in if you want. That basically means that it can also be, the products can be searched for by manufacturer. So as we had the fake store set up before, there's fake manufacturers in here like HTC, and as you start typing, it'll auto-populate, and you'll have to choose from that auto-populated. So also let me see what categories are there. So you choose a category, you type it here, and then it'll put it in those categories, and you can put it in multiple categories. The filter is the same type of thing. Downloads, these are things that you've uploaded already into the download section. You want the client, once they buy it, will be able to download it. Related products, this will put it in the related products tab, so when they do visit the product, they can see that there's a related product with it. Okay, so some of the attributes I haven't really worried about too much. Options, this is basically if you want to have them choose, large, medium, or small, or red, blue, or green, or whatever. But you still have to go into options first and create those option fields, and then you'll put in, for example, you'll go in and create option fields, and you'll say sizes, and then you'll give it the options. And so in here, then I would be able to type in sizes, whichever the name of my option was. And let's see. Oh, yep. There's choose size. So this was an option that's already in here that was set up in my default thing. And so basically, yeah, that's why that's there. Profiles. You can add a profile. I don't really know much about the profiles. I haven't used that too much. Discounts, of course, if you want to add a special discount. Usually, the best way to do a discount or a special is to do it under specials. And you basically just click Add Special. You can do it for a default group, or if you have a membership group that you want to give this special to, you can do that. Priority means that this special is bumped above other specials, so you can list your specials in an order, and you can have whatever one you want this to be. If you want this number 1 or number 10 or whatever, the price that the special is, and then the date when it starts and when it ends, and then it'll automatically take care of that for you. Images is where you can add additional images of the product. Reward points, if you want to add a reward system. So basically you spend $100 and you get $5 reward point or something like that. And then the client can use those reward points as actual dollars toward a purchase. If you don't want to specify reward points, you don't want to work with the reward points, don't worry about it and you won't have to do anything about it. Design basically is there are different designs of different pages in Opencart. And you basically just want to leave this as default. You don't want to worry about this unless for some reason you've designed up a special type of page for this particular product, then you would change that, and that's about it. So pretty much these first two tabs, maybe the special, maybe the image tab, would be the ones that you'd really need to work on for products. And then for extensions, basically Opencart is kind of a framework. And then there's all these extensions that can come into play with the framework. So we've got these different modules. These are just the generic modules, and a lot of these are already installed, or you can go and you can buy them for, well, there's a lot of them for free, but you can buy them for $10, $20, $100. Most of them are under $20, the ones that I found. And you install them here, and you can see how you can edit and uninstall them. Some of the extensions also include shipping features. So for example, if I don't want to use FedEx, I just don't install it, but it comes standard with Opencart. But if I wanted to use it, I'd click install, and then takes it a second to it's connecting, and there now it's installed. Now I can go in and I can edit my FedEx shipping, and so now this will show up as an option, especially if I enable it. Usually there it is. It's disabled to begin with. So I'd have to go in and enter all the information in, and then all I do is once I do that and hit save, then this will show up as a shipping option to my clients when they actually go to purchase. So you kind of have to be careful how all the shipping and different things like that interact with each other. For example, you can have shipping features that are only for US, and then you can have different shipping features that are only for international. And so you just kind of have to make sure that as you do all that, as you set them up, that they are completely compatible with, they're not conflicting with each other and different things like that. There's also payment extensions, and you can see there's some default ones that just come default with it. They include PayPal, different options from PayPal, Authorize.net, which is another popular one, cash on delivery, free checkout, different things like that. So there's a bunch of different ones. Most of them are disabled when you first start up, and then you go and you enable it, and then you set the features on it. For example, on cash on delivery, you can have it be if the total is greater than 0.01, and you can change how the status would be for you when you get the order, what the status is of the order. You can say what zones it's for, and then you can also enable it and put the sort order, because it'll have different, if you have multiple payment options, it'll list them in the order that you set it. So that's the extensions. The cells, of course, is going to be your cells. You can go to orders, and you can sort the orders. You can go into view an order, and there's a difference between a viewing and ordering, editing an order. Of course, editing an order gets a little complicated. One thing you do have to be careful of is when you edit an order, it interacts with the payment feature, and you have to make sure that it's going to work with your payment processor. But let's just go in and view one really quickly. So here's just a test order that I did. You can see it gives you a lot of information. It even tells you what browser I was using, what my IP address was using, what store I used, because with Opencart you can actually have multiple stores. And let's see, store name. So then there's the payment details. You can see it was cash on delivery. The shipping details, basically the same information. And then the product, what was purchased, and then the history. And so basically, if you were fulfilling an order, the best thing to do would be to come into the order and click print invoice. And I'm sure there's probably an extension out there that you can get where you can print multiple invoices at the same time, where you just like checked them. Oh, there it is right there. Actually, it's already installed. So you'd basically just do that, click print invoice, and you can see how it opened up all three of those as invoices, all on one page. I'm sure there's probably code in here that tells it to split this page up, so when I do actually print it, it would show different pages. Let me just go into the page. Yeah, so there's the print preview, and you can see how it did separate it into individual pages. So that's kind of cool. There's a lot of great features. Opencart's been around for quite a while. They're always making updates to it. It's really nice that they do that. However, if you do get extensions, you need to make sure that they're compatible with your version, and your version will be right down here. You need to make sure they're compatible with your version, and also the best type of extension to get is the VQ mod, which means that it doesn't actually go in and modify the actual Opencart files, but it uses a special dynamic feature. So just two things to look for if you're looking at an extension: VQ mod, and make sure it's compatible with your version. And then read its instructions. Usually they'll come with great instructions telling you exactly how to install it. And if of course, you have trouble, then you get a hold of me or whoever to help you. So that's the main part that you'll be dealing with. Systems, and I guess you might be doing some reports and stuff like that too. But system, you don't really need to worry about too much. You go into settings, and here's the store. This is where you add multiple stores. You could go in here and make sure the information is correct in your store, and you don't want to mess with the template and stuff like that, because that's probably been set for you. Country, this was just default. Opencart is from the UK, so you'll see that a lot of the stuff is geared towards them, but they do have all the settings, so you could change it to the United States and all that. I haven't really gone into this since it's just a test account. I haven't gone into it and done much with it. So there's a few different options that you can go through here and make sure everything is the way you want it. But the other thing that we usually need to set up is the localization. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Localization means that basically, like I said, this is a UK ran company, or the Opencart was created in the UK. However, we can set it up so that it is more compatible with the United States. Meaning, for example, if I get a client that comes along and I'm in Utah, and I get a client that comes along and they buy a product from me and they're in Utah as well, I need to charge them tax. I need to charge them sales tax. So how do I do that? Well, what I do is I set up a geo zone. I set up a tax classification, and when they put in that their shipping address is Utah, it triggers that tax classification, the geo zone does, and it signals that they need to pay taxes. And so that's a great way to a great example of geozones. Also, shipping. If you want to ship to the 48 states, and you create the geozones for the 48 states, and you say whatever free shipping or whatever you want to charge for the the upper 48 states, and then if you want to charge something for Hawaii and Alaska and all the others, then you can add those to a different class, and then you can assign those to different types of shipping methods. And so that's kind of how all that works. Each one of these interacts with each other. So if I go to remove a tax class, usually it'll tell me I can't remove it because there's other things that are assigned to it. And so you kind of just have to trace the path. But for example, countries, there's geozones that have countries in them, and so you kind of have to go through and work with each one. That's the basics of Opencart. As it's best to kind of maybe just fiddle with it just a little bit. One little thing that I have noticed, and I'm not sure if this is enabled, you can basically, you can go in here and you can set up users and user groups. For example, if I have, if I have people that I want to administer my site, but I don't want them to have all the, to be able to go and change the classifications and all that, you can set up a group and give them certain permissions, and basically go through and say you only have permission to do this, 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 and this, and then you give them then as you set up a user, you give them a classification. However, with that being said, I believe you can tell the system not to allow them to do this. However, on orders, it's real easy to go in and just delete an order, which is not a good idea to do. I can see why they do allow it, why Opencart does allow it, but it's really not a good idea to delete an order. It's best to just go in and modify the order, and so you remove it. So for example, here on my dashboard, usually when I set up an account, I do some test purchases, and those ones I do delete because they don't need to be there, they're just tests. However, if you get a client that wants canceled or whatever, just deleting it doesn't work. You need to go in and modify it that way. So you kind of might want to create some test charges, fiddle with those a little bit, and then delete them. Also, you can see that order IDs are the same as the invoice ID or the invoice number that they would see on their invoice or on their purchase. And you can actually go into the database, which I've already done on usually when I set up an Opencart, I usually go in and change the invoice number. So you pretty much don't want the client seeing that they're number 26 or they're number 16. So usually I go in there and pick a number over 1,000 and do that. I think that's pretty much it as far as the basic instruction to the store. If you have any questions, let me know.